But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. Let me tell you about my great God.
Hey guys, Pastor Tim here. Hope you guys are doing great. Hope you're ready to get your day started off in God's Word. We are in 2 Kings chapter 8, and we start off with what's essentially a little bit of a flashback. We see the Shunammite woman that built the special part of her house, an extra chamber for Elisha to stay in, who had a son that Elisha promised her because of her goodwill to him, and that son died, and then he came and he brought her son back to life. This same woman, Elisha went to and told her, hey, there's a famine coming to the land of Israel. All right, you need to get out, find some place safe to stay because it's going to last for 7 years. Now, it's important to note that this is not the same famine that happened in the previous couple of chapters. The one that happened with, actually just the last chapter. This is a different famine. The reason we kind of know that is because that one was a local famine. This one was more broad and it lasted for 7 years. But not only that, we see that Gehazi shows up at the beginning of this chapter. Remember, Gehazi was the man after Naaman was healed of his leprosy, got punished with leprosy as well because he went to accept of Naaman's riches. And it wouldn't have been possible for a leper to come forward in the presence of the king of Israel. That just would not be allowed to happen. So this is kind of a flashback. This happens before. All right, so the woman, she goes and she she leaves her property, her and her family. They go and they take residence in the land of the Philistines. They wait out the famine, but when they come back, they come to find that their land, their property they had was seized by somebody else. So she's going to the king of Israel to plead and make her case to get her land back. And much to her surprise, she finds Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, talking to the king at that time. And they're talking about the great things that Elisha has done. And he mentions the fact that, oh yes, there was a young child that Elisha brought back to life. And the king is very much amazed by this. He's interested in it. And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, the woman who's that kid's mother comes into the presence of the king and he says, oh yeah, by the way, this woman is that mother, is the one that had the child that Elisha brought back to life. And so because of these events and the king realizing who this woman really was, he decides to give her back her land, all right, because of what Elisha the prophet did for her and just seeing that she was blessed of God in that way. And it kind of brings this idea of, you may not know why you go through certain trials in life. You may not know why God allows you to experience these things, and you may not know why until years down the line. This woman, she lost her son, and thankfully Elisha brought him back to life, but she didn't know the true meaning of why God allowed that to happen until more than 7 years later when she loses her property. And it's because of that account and the king being so impressed by it that he allows her to give her property back unto her. And we may not understand why God allows us to go through the trials we go through, but we can have faith that in all things God works for our good. Now the chapter goes on and it talks about the king of Syria, Ben-Hadad, and he has an illness and he thinks he's about to die. And at this moment, he thinks of Elisha, the man of God in Israel. And so he sends one of his main men, Hazael, forgive me for that, Hazael. He sends him to go and give this message to Elisha and just asking, hey, can you inquire of your God, will I overcome this disease? And so he goes over there and he meets Elisha and he asks him the question. Elisha tells him two things. He tells him, one, yes, he will recover, but two, he will also die. And it's really interesting. In verses 11 through 13, some interesting things happen. Elisha, after telling this man, Hazael, this message, he just kind of stops and he stares at him for a while. And he looks at him, and it's kind of getting to this awkward situation where Hazael, he starts to be a little embarrassed, like, why is this guy just looking at me? And all of a sudden, we see Elisha start to cry. He starts to shed some tears. And what we find out is that God is giving Elisha insight into the heart of this guy, Hazael. Sorry, I keep messing up the name. And in giving Elisha insight into this man's heart, he sees the wickedness that this man will bring to pass, and it causes Elisha to cry. And he asks him that. He's like, hey, why are you crying? He says, well, I know the wickedness that you will do to Israel. You will come and you will destroy and you will kill our men and our women and our children. You will do great evils to our land. And hearing this kind of shocks Hazael. He's like, whoa, am I a dog that you think I would do this? And he says, no, God has shown me that you will be king. See, in giving insight into Hazael's heart, Elisha is able to see that this man, the reason why he could say that king would recover from his illness, but two, that he would also die, is because God allowed him to see that this man had the intent to kill King Ben-Hadad. And that's exactly what happens when he goes back to Syria. He gives the king the message saying, you will recover from the disease. And then that very next day or night, I can't remember, he smothers him in his sleep, and then he reigns in his stead as the new king of Syria. And we'll get into the next couple of chapters. We'll see all the evil acts that he does as well as king of Syria. The rest of the chapter ends with just kind of catching us up on the history of the kings of Judah. They've been having some good kings for a while now with Jehoshaphat and so forth, but now we're getting to some kings after them that are following the example of Ahab in the kings of Israel. So they were not good kings. They were not leading Judah now in the ways of the Lord. So they're going to have some hard times as well. And that's it for the chapter. A lot of things happening, but I would say my main thing that I got out of this chapter, you may get something different, has to do with that very beginning. With we may not know why God allows us to go through the trials we go through, but we can have faith that in all things God works for our good. The Shunammite woman, she did not understand probably why God allowed her son to pass away and then raise him from the dead. And she probably thought that was it when he was risen again from the dead. But she finds out later that because of that incident, it impressed the king so much that he gave her back her land that she lost when she left during the famine. That's all I got for today's chapter, guys. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.